I found I liked this particular one, so I decided to save some seed for myself for next year. So I collected some slightly overripe. You can see how they're nice and squishy, so that they had the most potential to fully mature inside of the tomato. And I've collected several of them so I can get a good volume in my mason jar for fermentation process. So I prefer to cut them horizontally because this allows me to easily squeeze out the seed cavities into my jar, and then I can just kind of rake the juice and the seed into it. The pulp causes problems in the separation part of it. Oops, found my trash can here. So I just take these out. It's just a really easy process. I get most of them this way. If you cut them the other way, you have to dig out every channel, and some are hidden that way. So we just squeeze these little guys out. And then just kind of as a word, I did make selections based on, you know, how many fruit were in the first flush ripe on these plants, so that I had, you know, I'm trying to get earlier ripe fruits. So we picked some that were early. They had several fruit per truss, completely ripe. And then they had good plant habits. They were healthy plants. That's another key thing. You want to have a healthy plant to start with. That means healthy seeds in the end. And like I said, I let them go until they were past edible ripe. Not very many people like them when they start to get to this soggy stage. And that allows the seed to be fully mature. The gel in it is nice and orange. Less mature ones will have green gel. And they're just, I mean, they'll grow, but they're not going to last as long in storage. This way I can have several years worth of seed production off of my seed. I'm trying to get a good volume for fermentation. You can use, I've used a coffee mug actually, but you can use a coffee cup, you can use a butter dish, you can use any kind of a container you wish. I would prefer next time, I think, to use a wide mouth mason jar. A little easier to get seed in. Obviously, I've missed it a time or two. The less pulp and skin you have in there, the easier the other end of the process is. The reason I like to ferment them is it, one, gets the gel coat off, so it's not a sticky seed. And then two, it can help with some disease prevention on the outside of the seed coats. Typically, this is a 1 to 3 day process, depending on the temperature for fermentation. The warmer it is, the better it ferments. And like I said, you want a good seed volume ratio, because otherwise what happens is you get a mold layer that has all the seeds stuck to it, and then it doesn't ferment properly. So that's actually not too bad of a volume. I might add a couple more tomatoes. If you have this on a countertop and it's fermenting, it's releasing gas and it's going to bring in fruit flies. So you want to put a lid over it, and you want to get it so it's on there, but you want to leave it loose so that gases can escape, so you don't blow up your glass jar or your plastic container and have a mess everywhere. The nice thing about the jar is you can seal it down and give it a shake, because you want to shake it a couple, 3 times a day to make sure that you've mixed up the moisture, and then just remember to loosen the ring again so that the gases can escape. You want to make sure it gets a nice blend. You can see we've got seed and juice mixed pretty well here. And as it ferments, the good seed drops, the bad seed will float. The skins, if I got any in there, will float also. But by stirring it, you keep the fermentation even within the jar. The fact that it's sunk and the seeds went down, next step is to actually feel them and get a little bit of them in your hand. But you don't really want to lose all your juice, but you want to see if the gel coat is still on the seed. And while these are stuck to that, there is no gel coat actually left on these seeds. These seeds are pretty much gel coat free, and that's where we want the majority of them. So they are ready to add water and work, or decant, if you will. I don't recommend doing this in your kitchen sink. It's just extra pulp and things you don't need down your drains. I would say probably want to use your garden hose or a faucet outside. And being in a jar, that means I can seal them back up and give them a good shake to make sure that I separate anything that I don't want to keep. And then as you can see, the good seed is already sinking to the bottom. So then I open it up, and normally I'd do this out in my yard, but I'm inside today, so then you just kind of pour it off, and you want to kind of keep track of where your good seed's sitting. And normally I would expect to see some seed come off the edge, but when you start seeing the bulk of the seed, which is right at this level, it's time to add more water. And your goal is to get, if you look straight down, there's all this pulpy stuff and the bracts and branching that the seed originally attaches to. The goal is to get that kind of stuff out of here without losing the bulk of your good seed. And so it can take a little bit. And I think I'll just agitate it with the lid on so I can beat it up a little bit harder. See if we can't get some of this separated out a little better. And again, I'm just letting it stabilize. And this is why I said that you don't want to let a lot of pulp in there and skins, because that's where it's troublesome to get out. It tends to gain weight with the moisture, and so it settles with the good seed as well. A little bit, and I take it over to my screen, which you can use a colander, a small screen colander thing too, but I like to use window screen. And then I just rinse my jar out on top of it. And then if you have any dirt or anything, this is the place where you can hose it through, and you can kind of work some of this extra little pulpy stuff out. And then the other thing you can do to help yourself is you fold your screen over and you just kind of squeeze the moisture out of it. And then put a fan on this.